Who is the real Caps?
Probably the lock, the Caps lock.
Yeah.
That's the real one. You can find on not every keyboard. I won't say that, but most of them.
Here he comes. You rolling? Hello, mate. Welcome to the hot seat, mate.
Thank you. Hey. Should I be worried? Should I be worried? Anything scary from my past coming? Another title. Another title coming in today against Fnatic.
It's good, isn't it?
3-1. Feels good.
That's the score.
That was
Scores on the doors.
Exactly.
Yeah. Close the door now. New chapter?
Yeah, exactly.
Lost chapter.
The Worlds
1200 gold.
might be stronger now than Dorn's plays nerfed.
Yeah. Swedish manager Sven Doran Eriksson.
Yeah,
Yeah. What do you think about
that caught me off guard.
that? Absolutely. Seekers?
Amgard,
Yeah. On guard. Fiora.
fair enough.
Repost. Let's bring it back to you. How do you feel about winning today?
Definitely very happy. It was quite an exhausting victory.
And when you say happy, what colour is that in your mind?
Probably green.
Green. That's quite a weird colour.
Like a
Green's,
light
green's,
green.
green's normally quite jealousy.
I would say like nature green.
Oh, right. More like a racing car green, royal green.
I mean, I'm picturing like a
Picturesque.
forest.
Yeah.
Forest.
Absolutely. Not that guy that gambles on Twitter. Forest Within, do you know him?
I think I've heard
No,
of him.
you're far too famous for that.
But that was not exactly him I was thinking of. It was more like a forest, yeah.
Like Ivan.
Exactly. Or Maokai, Syra, you know.
Yeah, all the champions that you force your jungler to play.
He loves playing them, actually. He's
Yeah.
very one with nature.
Fair enough. Do you think he loves it, or do you think that you've made him love it? Sort of how I love my, ex-girlfriend, even though she wasn't very nice to me.
I mean, it might be a mix. Sadly, we didn't get split off Maokai really recently. Our opponents kept picking it. So he didn't get to get played out. But the Syra and Ivor, no.
Yeah. You've got quite a lot of. When I look at you, there's magic in your eyes.
I appreciate that. And I can
Do you
see
feel the same about me?
I can see some magic in your eyes as well, yeah.
Because we're keeping quite a lot of eye contact here.
That is true. But now I just looked away.
Yeah, absolutely. And when you spoke about green, jealousy, some could interpret as. Is there any player that you're jealous of in the world?
Yeah.
Who?
Probably Faker.
Yeah? Because of his career, his skill, or?
Yeah, I think his skill is definitely been very impressive. His amount of wins, his amount of world skins, a lot to be envious of.
And what quality of his would you say that you admire most?
Probably his resilience to come back in a lot of games. Like last year, for example, at Worlds with the Asir, the shuffle. We came back in a few games today with with Asir. There was no crazy shuffle, but
And there, some people might interpret that as you're insinuating that you are sort of like Faker.
Well, some would say that I'm baby Faker.
Yeah. You're quite old now. I mean, how old are you now? 20?
24, which is definitely
Oldest baby in the world.
I don't know every
That's
baby.
like when kids, when you see a kid in a pram and you think, that kid's about 7, why is he getting breastfed?
I mean, that's why it's a fake. Baby Faker, but you can also call it a fake baby,
Yeah. Absolutely wonderful. That's excellent. And if we go back to that magic that I see in you, there's quite a lot of, I don't know, I can't really put my, I won't put my finger on you because I'll probably get in trouble for that, but it's hard to really understand anything about you. You've been the best player in Europe for so many years now, and I feel like I don't know much about you. It's just, you have a playful nature to you, there's a bit of whimsy, but who is the real Caps?
Probably the luck, the Caps luck.
Yeah?
That's the real one. You can find on not every keyboard, I won't say that, but most of them, and definitely the Logitech ones.
Is that your sponsor?
That is definitely our partner, yeah.
And how responsible would you say is Logitech for the success you found in your career?
Well, I definitely have had good results, at least in Europe, and we've always used Logitech gear, and it's always been very reliable. So,
Wow. Do you think by me allowing you to plug them in this way that they might send me some stuff as well?
you can ask them, You can ask them.
Can you ask them?
I can ask them as well.
Yeah, that's great. I love that from you. But to sort of, not to pin you down, because again, I'd get in trouble for that, but to sort of get more of an idea of what we're talking about here is there's a whimsy and there's a play with you. We talk about you being baby faker and maybe being this Peter Pan figure that refuses to grow up, but you're having so much fun all the time and playing these little pranks. And where does that come from? It feels like you have a very childlike element to you in a good way.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely like having fun, I guess, and I like maybe pulling some pranks, maybe sometimes to some of my teammates.
What's the best prank you pulled this year to a teammate?
The best prank I pulled this year? Now you put me on the spot. Let's see. Probably. I mean, I'm not sure. I think maybe some of the solo games I've played. I like, maybe.
Oh, I've seen that. You've ined some of my players.
I've targeted. I would say targeted some of my teammates.
You've target inted some of your.
No, not target ended. Target focused. Like done a lot of roams to them. Usually they don't find it quite amusing, but I usually have a blast doing it. So.
Yeah. And so that's quite counterintuitive to a healthy team environment. But I suppose in some ways you're prioritizing your own fun over them.
I mean, it's competitive team, right? And we like to have fun with each other, but we also like to compete. And I'm really putting them, on edge. Like they feel like they need to improve some of that game,
And you have kind of similarly, in the way that you talk about modelling resilience after Faker and admiring that in some ways, you're a player that has had to deal with, from a public optics perspective, being, the prince that was promised, the best player the West has ever seen, to being like, oh, Caps is washed. I remember when I interviewed Chovy at MSI, I was like, oh, Caps wouldn't even be top 6 in LCK and stuff like this. How do you deal with that? Do you block it all out? Because I remember speaking to you about how you're the kind of guy that you don't own a phone, you have to read the time in China off of an oven. Are you quite disconnected from what people think about you?
I think partly. I think I also think sometimes when people have thought poorly about me, I probably thought about myself. Like I remember at least after season 11 especially, where we just lost twice in a row for the first time in like many years, and I was feeling very uncomfortable. And next year I even ended up like swapping my name to the big P on the caps to like try and give a refresh. And I definitely felt very uncomfortable. And I think for me, the biggest thing was actually after we lost to Fnatic in season 12 and we went to lower bracket.
Yeah.
That's when I really had a realization where I was like, I can beat these players. Like there's no reason that they're just better than me. There's no reason I'm losing. I have what it takes to beat everyone. And it really clicked for me, and I think I found my confidence. And obviously, it's like I will not always have the same high confidence, but sometimes I'll have lower or higher. But I definitely have more, I think, confidence in myself now than
That's
previously.
fair. And it felt like when you came on the scene, there was just this. It's almost when you're a kid, you believe that you're so infallible, nothing can touch you, nothing can hurt you. That's how we end up breaking our bones. That's how we end up falling from trees. I'm sure you did that as a young man in Denmark. And it feels like at certain points, maybe that infallible knowledge that we can't be stopped was maybe hurt in some ways. Do you remember when that moment was for you?
I mean, definitely. I think from my first split, even like when we lost to G2, because I had a lot of confidence going into that entire split, and I think when we just lost to G2 in playoffs, we won the first game, we're 10k at the second game, but then we lost. And then I was like, okay, I was not good enough. And I think I had been building up a lot of confidence, like season 8, season 9, season 10, winning. And I think that season 11 year was just like a disaster again, right? Where a lot of that confidence kind of shattered. And I think I was relying a lot on the performance I had done to prove my confidence.
Yeah.
Whereas now I think I'm not so much relying on like the results and more based on like my practice, based on like the amount of effort I put into the game. And it feels more reliable, I guess, as a way.
And I was speaking to your dad yesterday, a man that talks only in hieroglyphics and riddles, as I'm sure you'll know. It's interesting he mentioned that you dress up as Santa Claus on Christmas and stuff like that, which is quite an interesting side to you, but it doesn't really relate to my question. You have an older brother who obviously is a professional Dota player, and to hear your dad speak about him, to get a bit more of an insight on that is interesting, because he comes from an era that was much more about you build the PC, you play on the PC, and you understand more the heuristics of it and the kind of logistics that go into it. I wanted to ask you, being involved in an environment that your dad is so logically brained in that way with the element of fun, and your brother is sort of programmed to dissect things and unpack them, has it encouraged you to approach the league in a different way? Is that why you're so different, you think?
I mean, definitely, I think I have always talked a lot with my brother about League. Like he doesn't really play it, but he plays Dota. Like
At a certain level, we're all playing the same game.
yeah, they're very similar, right? And I think we talk a lot about like concepts, and he talk about Dota concepts. I talk about League concepts, and sometimes he's like, "Wait, why do you guys do this? That sounds like so troll. You guys should just do like this instead."
And is he often right? You find, or
I mean, it's a mix. It's a mix, right? I think some of it is just like there's different mechanics, so you can't do it as well. But definitely, I have taken a lot of inspiration from him, and like a lot of like thinking out of the box because it's like a different perspective entirely.
When you talk about at the conceptual level, what would you say are big things? Because, like, for example, when I interviewed LS, he talked about how a lot of his game theory comes from it's sort of similar to how if you're a philosopher, you have central tenets to your philosophy. What would you say are the central lessons at the core of Caps's philosophy?
Like that I'll talk with him about.
Even with him, or you got from him, or just in general, what the general tenets are?
I mean, I think a lot of things I got from him is also just a lot of work ethic. Like just really putting in the amount of hours into the game.
Does that come from, because I can imagine when it comes to like a programming mind, it's about stress testing and variables. When you talk about work ethic, is it more just trying to work out the limits of everything and putting this in it, saying, well, this works, but what if I did this?
I mean, I think it's like a mix of just like quantity, like just really putting in a lot of hours. Like I don't really do like really anything else than League, and I think we watch like some shows now and then sometimes we do like some team building stuff, we go food together, something like that. But aside from like the team stuff, I don't really do anything on like an individual basis, except that it's not like league related. And then of course also putting the quality into that, because those hours, like everyone can put those hours in, but you also need to be creative in those hours. You need to make it count.
And where do you get that creativity from? Because if you're so focused, it almost reminds me of when you think about a figure like Bobby Fischer in chess. We think of him as a genius of chess, and almost when you're consumed in that way, it's all you can think about. He sees the chessboard in his mind. I can imagine in some ways you're dreaming about League of Legends. But where do you get that creativity from if you're not having the influx and the kind of the watering of the plant from elsewhere?
Yeah, I mean, it can definitely be difficult to get sometimes. I think it's the biggest challenge sometimes. I think you can find I can find a lot of inspiration from other players. Sometimes it just kind of like comes to me. I mean, we meme about it. Like I mean about it in the past, but there was the split where I was like had a dream about the Como Lulu, and then we picked it in the final and we won afterwards. And obviously, some of it is just like I lie awake. Sometimes I lie awake for a long time and I'm just thinking, and I think that's probably where a lot of the inspiration comes from as well. Just kind of like, oh, what about this champion in this situation? Or if I want to do this play, maybe I can pull it out with this hero.
David Lynch he's a filmmaker. He's a great sort of analogy for creativity and how he finds it, because he often comes up with these quite obscure images that come from nowhere. He's famous for a film where there's an ear on a car that they find, the guy that's been murdered or whatever. And he talks about how he sort of feels like he drops a fishing line into his subconscious and he waits for whatever to come out. Do you feel like that's sort of what's going on when you think about these things? Yeah,
I mean, that definitely sounds accurate. I think I definitely think about just like, if you give yourself time, you will come up with ideas. Like again, you talk about the phone thing, but it's another thing for me where especially during COVID, you had to always have your phone because of like, you need your COVID pass and all these kind of things. And I could definitely feel that there was like a lack of like focus from me, because it's very easy to just like, oh, you have your phone, now you're just on your phone. But I think when I don't have my phone and I'm just like, in my bed or whatever I'm doing, I get to really think about League and like enjoy it, I guess.
That's wonderful. It's been great speaking to you. It's a wonderful conversation, and great to speak with you. Oh, I have a present for you.
Oh.
This is, God, where is it? Somewhere in my disgusting pocket. It's probably been covered in chocolate by now. Ariane from France made this for you. It's got a little bracelet. It's a random girl that we met with filming in the crowd. Not in a weird way.
Thank you.
No worries.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Cheers, mate.
GG.
I'd love to get a chance to talk to you more in depth on a podcast or something.
Sure, yeah.
We've got some interesting stuff to talk about.
My mom?
No, you.
Oh, me? Oh, I thought
Because we're talking about concepts.